Get your free copy of the complete tutorial at www.teachucomp.com/free.
What we see here is the initial screen when you enter full edit mode. As we discussed when looking at the organizer environment, if you're used to a typical Windows environment, you'll have some familiar tools available to you. So let's take a few moments to acquaint ourselves with the various parts of the environment and what we can do through those objects. At the top of the program window, up here we have what's called the title bar. This contains things like the Photoshop Elements icon. We have some other handy tools that we'll be discussing shortly, like reset panels, the really handy undo and redo buttons. We also have links to other parts of the application, like the organizer that we discussed in the last chapter, as well as a link to the welcome screen that would take you directly there if you so choose. Now at the far right, in the upper right hand corner here, we have three buttons that allow us to control the size and shape of the application window. We have Minimize, Maximize and Restore, and Close. Now note that when you click those buttons, that they control the sizing of the entire application and not just the image file upon which you happen to be working. So for example, if I click the Minimize button, that's going to minimize the entire Elements application down into the Windows taskbar. To restore it, I simply give it a click. Now just below the title bar we have what's called the menu bar, and that contains the commands for performing tasks in full edit mode grouped by category. For example, we have File, and the File command contains all of the necessary commands for file management. You can click on one of the commands in the menu bar to display a drop-down listing of the subcommands that are available to perform. You then click on the command that you want to perform. Some subcommands are followed by a right-pointing arrow, such as New that we see here. And that indicates that you must make a selection to execute that command. You simply hold your mouse pointer over those commands until you see a side menu appear. Then you slide your mouse pointer into the side menu to click on one of the available command choices. So for example, I could slide my mouse pointer over and choose Blank File, Photo Merge Group Shot, Photo Merge Faces, etc. Now some commands are followed by an ellipsis mark, and those commands will then launch a dialog box when clicked into, which you must then input additional information or make a selection before you can execute that command. For example, if you selected File and then Open from the menu bar, you'll be presented with the Open dialog box that we see here. And here you would need to find a file to open for editing. Now in these dialog boxes that do appear, you can click the Cancel button or press the Escape key on your keyboard to cancel the window without making a choice. If you're interested in becoming a faster user of the Elements program, then it will help you to memorize the keyboard shortcuts that are available for the various commands in the menu bar. Using the menu bar to begin with will also allow you to view the various keyboard shortcuts. Keyboard shortcuts are listed to the right of the various commands in the menu bar drop-down menus. If we look at File, for example, we'll see that the keyboard shortcut is Control and O. So if I click out of here and just use my keyboard and click Control and O, you'll see that we open the Open dialog box again. And we'll go ahead and cancel that. If you're using version 5.0, after the menu bar is the Shortcuts bar. And here you can launch some tasks with a click of a button instead of going through the menu commands. To the left of the Shortcuts bar are the two Edit Mode tabs, and clicking these tabs takes you to the edit mode of your choice. In version 6.0 and later, these tabs are at the right end of the menu bar. Now we have looked at already here, for example, at our tab drop down for switching to the various edit modes located here. After the Shortcuts bar is what's called the Options bar. That's located right here. And this is a toolbar that is tied to the Tools palette. It has all of the options for the various tools that you select. So as a result, this toolbar is constantly changing, showing different buttons and settings depending on what tool is currently selected. So as we learn to use the tools, you check here to see the additional options for the selected tools. Below the options bar, down here, we have the image window. And that's the main workspace of the Elements program. The various images that you open and create will display themselves here in their own window. Below the image window, down here, is what's called the status bar, which displays information about the image that you're working on. Now you can also use various toolbars and palettes to edit your images. The main palette that we use and have to select image editing tools, it's what's called the Tools palette. That's located over here. This is a floating toolbar that hovers over the workspace at the left by default. You can use it to select various tools that assist you in selecting and editing images. You can click on a button to select that tool. Now, as we do that, you can look up here in the options bar and see how it changes depending on which tool you have selected. Now, some of the buttons have small triangles in their lower right corners that you can click to show other available settings for that button in a side menu. You can then click on one of those other button settings to select that as the default choice for that particular button. So you should take some time to familiarize yourself with the tools' names and locations so you can find them later. You can also display the other settings for a button by simply right-clicking on the button as well. You can also hold your mouse pointer over any of these buttons, and the name of that button will display itself in a screen tip, which is the small box that appears. Just like that. Now, you should note that it will also show the keyboard shortcut that you have available that you can use as well. Now, if you want to move the Tools palette, you place your mouse pointer over the small title bar at the top of the palette, right up here, and then click and drag it to the place where you'd like to move it to. Now, you may have to do this quite a bit as you're working with your images, just depending on where your image is located, the resolution, and what you're doing. You can turn the Tools palette on and off by selecting Window and then Tools from the menu bar, and this is right there, and then you can turn it back on the same way. And that will toggle the toolbar's display on or off. That's the main environment that we're going to be working on in full edit mode. Now let's start talking about some of the various bins and other options that we have available in the coming lessons.
Like what you see? Pick up your free copy of the complete tutorial at www.teachucomp.com/free.